Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, inshallah. So this session, inshallah, is our first session about the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's called Seerah in Arabic, which is the tracing of the footsteps, if you wish, how he lived, in what society he lived, what did he do, what are the major events that are documented in the books of history as part of his life, and may Allah be pleased with him. And so, according to the schedule, the way the session or this topic was broken down, it's in two sessions. There is this one, which is was planned to cover the Makkah period of the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then, inshallah, the next session will be the one that covers the Medina period. These two are known throughout Islamic history as the proper way of looking at the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because they are two distinct periods in history, with the pre-revelation time, post-revelation time, and what he had endured at the hands of the tribe of Quraysh. And then, of course, when he was driven out of Makkah and forced to flee in Hijrah, we call this moment in time Hijrah or migration, this period onward all to the point of the passing away of the Rasulullah is called the Madani period. Historically speaking, the Mecca period is about 13 years. That includes from the advent of revelation to the point of leaving Mecca. And then the period of Medina is about 10 years, which is from the time of Hijrah to the death of the Prophet ﷺ. So historically, that's how it's broken. However, because of the amount of material that we have to cover, it is not realistic to really do this in two sessions. So what I'm trying to do, inshallah, in this session, we will cover pre-Islamic Arabia. What was society like? What was this society in which Islam and this message of Islam was revealed? So that we really understand the context. We also need to understand the large players in that period, because as we will move to the next, we shall meet those players in treaties, in conflicts, in wars, in problems to the message and giving da'wah to people. And so this is very important. So this is the one. The second is, what was society like? What was good and acceptable? And what was bad and abhorrent in Mecca itself, in that society? This is also very important. And so we will, inshallah, look at it from that standpoint. And I think this session will probably at most take us to the time of revelation. And then, inshallah, we'll try to figure out how to bring to you the material that completes this session, or we will do it in a very nutshell summary fashion in the next session, inshallah, which will really be from the time of his birth, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or pre-Islamic era, to the point of revelation, and then we take revelation onward all the way to the time of his death. So this is it's a huge task, I can tell you, because if you look at the books of Seerah that document the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it's a huge body of knowledge. It's not something that we can summarize in two sessions. But let's, inshallah, start. So, what was the pre-Islamic society like? There were several aspects. Let's start by the religious aspect. Historically, historians say that most of the Arabs, which were the dwellers of the Arabian Peninsula, really had complied with the call of Ismail, who is the son of our father, Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. They had complied with the call of Ibrahim and afterwards Ismail and his progeny to worship Allah Azza wa Jal for a very, very long time. So they did worship Allah for a very long time, profess the oneness of Allah, and even at the time of Rasulullah they used to know Allah and know that He is one. But something happened in which one of their leaders that they revered so much, and he was renowned for righteousness, his name is Amr ibn Lu'ay. This man who had acquired so much respect from his people apparently went on a trip to Syria. And when he went to Syria, he found people worshipping idols. And so he brought some idols with him. And really it was not out of malice or anything bad. What he thought, this is good. He only wanted good things to his people. So he brought these idols back and said, let's worship them. So when he brought them back, for example, this Hubal, which is the most famous idol of the pre-Islamic era, he brought it from Syria. And he placed it in the middle of the Kaaba, and he asked his people to worship it. And of course, with the ignorance and the thirst for something new, they came and started worshipping this idol. And they thought that this is not an innovation, but it is an addition to the religion of Ibrahim. It is not a corruption of the religion of Ibrahim. They never thought that it that way. And so, very quickly, many idols bearing different names were introduced into the area. And we know that the Arabs used to come still to Makkah to perform pilgrimage. They still used to do that. So when they used to come, they were given idols. They used to take them back home. And so they ended up, by the time the message of Islam came, there was not a single house that did not have an idol. Not a single tribe that did not have an idol. So they had idols for their tribes specifically. They had idols for each home, and even people had their own idols. So this is how it was. And subhanAllah, it's Umar radiallahu anhu, Khattab, after he accepted Islam, he recalls this type of life where he said that, I recall two things from Jahiliyyah, from this period of ignorance. Jahiliyyah is referred to as the period before Islam, which was all this way of life, customs, societal relationships, all of that used to be called Jahiliyyah. In Arabic, translation is ignorance. It's the period of ignorance. Because of, really, when we look at it today, from the standpoint of what Allah taught us, it is truly a period of ignorance. And so Umar said that, I recall two things. One of them I laugh at, and one of them I cry on remembering it. The first is, I had an idol made of date. He fashioned his idol of date. And he said when I got hungry, he ate it. And the idol could not defend himself, nor could he do anything. Unfortunately, the other one that he said when he remembers, he cries. And that is the burying of his own daughter alive. He said, when I remember it, and I will come to it, inshallah, this very heinous activity that he used to do. So, because of this widespread idol worshipping and polytheism, the monotheism that Ibrahim and Ismail left got contaminated, diluted, and almost never existed afterwards, because idolatry took over. And so it became the most prominent features of the religion of pre-Islamic Arabs, despite alleged profession of Abraham's religion. They profess that they are followers of Ibrahim, but at that point in time, they really departed so far. They had traditions and ceremonies for the worship of their idols that had been mostly created by this man, Amr ibn Lu'ay himself. They were deemed as good innovations rather than deviations, as I said, from the true religion of Ibrahim. And some of these features of worship that they used to do, there was self-devotion to these idols. They sought refuge with them. They acclamate them with their names. They called them for help in hardship. They did not make big decisions until they consult this idol, supposedly seeking advice and indication whether to move forward or not. They used to supplicate to them to fulfill their wishes and so forth. And also, even the Arabs who were not in Mecca, when they used to come for pilgrimage, which existed, they used to come for pilgrimage to the idols. It's no more the pilgrimage to the house of Allah. It used to be pilgrimage to when they make tawaf, as we know it today, which is walking around the Kaaba. It was really making tawaf to these idols. They sought favors of them through various kinds of sacrifices. They used to give food to them. They used to sacrifice animals and place them in front of the idol. The Quran, in this verse, chapter 39, verse 3, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لا نعبدهم إلا ليقربونا إلى الله زلفى. We worship them only that they may bring us near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this was the argument that they were giving. However, beside this, although polytheism and the worship of idols was rampant, there were also other major religions. And this is important to know because we need to know what Islam had to tackle at a very early age. So there was Judaism, Christianity, and others, like the worshippers of the sun, the worshippers of fire, which came all from Persian traditions. For example, Judaism migrated to the Arabian Peninsula very, very early on. In fact, there is two waves of migration recorded in history. The first is following the destruction of the Jewish temple in 587 before Christ, very, very long time ago. The Jews settled in Arabia. And then with the Roman occupation of Palestine in 70 AD, there was in fact called the tidal wave of migration of Jews to Arabia. Jews were known to have established major tribes. They have built forts, castles, and they built villages. They used to conduct a sedentary life, which means in villages and small cities, and they were extremely wealthy. Also, Judaism itself, through this structure that was in place, managed to play an important role in pre-Islamic political life. And Islam had to face that. And at the dawn of Islam, especially in Medina, not much in Mecca, because they were not too many in Mecca. In Medina, close to Medina, that's where they were. And so Islam had to deal with the Hebrews and Bani Israel. And these tribes' names come often in Islamic history. Khaybar, we know the biggest battle of Khaybar, which is the battle of the ditch, which was really forged through the alliance of so many other tribes. Al-Mustalib, this is another tribe, Banu Nadir, Banu Qurayza, Banu Qunayqa. All these are major Jewish tribes that used to live in and around Medina at the time, even prior to Islam. Also, on the other hand, Christianity also appeared in Arabia through the Abyssinians, which are the Ethiopians. As we know, Abyssinia in Ethiopia is the cradle of Christianity in that part of the world. And in fact, we will see that Rasulullah ﷺ sent very early on in Islam, sent his companions to Abyssinia to seek protection because of the persecution of Quraysh. And he told them, go to Abyssinia. Indeed, there is a just king under whom no one shall be treated unjustly. And there is a beautiful story of how they